Hi, my name is Dan Stafford. I'm an Aquarian born during the 1962 stellium, and this is for my granddaughter, who's not a stellium Aquarian, but she is an Aquarian, and I wanted to give her a little bit of an insight into how I view astrology and what I think astrology really is. All right, so this isn't really something that's good to watch if you're operating any kind of machinery or equipment or anything, because there's a part of it where I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and do some visualization here. So let me get into it and let's see if I can get this right. Okay. So I want you to close your eyes and picture a mountain, like a big mountain, like one of the Rockies. Not like these little mountains we have here in California, but a really big mountain, like twice as big as the Santa Ana Mountains, at least, bigger than Big Bear, even. And on the side of this mountain, right, um, there is like a kind of a bowl carved into the side of the mountain, just the way it formed and everything. And there's this lake in this bowl in the side of the mountain. All right. And on one side of the lake, there's like a sheer cliff. On the other side of the lake, there's the mountain going up towards the peak. Okay. And this lake is on the mountain, and it formed because every winter snow falls on the mountain, and every spring, in summer, the snow melts and runs down the mountain, and it filled up the bowl on the side of the mountain. Okay. And as you look at the edge of the lake that's away from the side of the mountain where the cliff is down and drops off just past the lake. If you follow the edge of the lake back around to one end of the lake, right where the lip of the bowl meets back up with the side of the mountain, right? Every winter snow falls on the top of the mountain, everything, the ground gets wet and freezes. There's snow up there, and then it thaws in the spring and summer. And as we know, things when they heat up, they expand, and when they get cold, they contract. So everything's moving just a little bit, constantly little bits of motion. Things get a little bigger, things get a little smaller. Now, water is one of those weird things. Instead of contracting when it freezes and turns into ice, it actually expands. Okay. So water's doing something even different. It's expanding and pushing when it turns into ice and freezes in the ground. So up there on the side of the mountain above the lake, you have this giant boulder, like at least as big as two houses, a really huge boulder, and it's just balanced just so where it sits on the side of the mountain. It's just balanced just so. And over time, the freezing and thawing and heating and cooling and expanding and contracting. Finally, one year, one day, the boulder gets knocked loose and it goes rolling, tumbling, rolling, tumbling down the mountain. And it hits the edge of that lake right there where the edge of the lake joins back to the side of the mountain, and it makes a hole in the edge of the lake. Not enough to drain the whole lake, but enough that there's water coming out of the lake and going down the side of the mountain, and the water is flowing down the mountain. There's a waterfall, and as it goes down the rest of the mountain, the water hits rocks and bounces to the side and then goes down because gravity, right? The same thing that makes an apple fall to the ground if you let go of it in the middle of the air, right? There's gravity that pulls the water down the mountain. And as it hits things, the water can maybe shoot over to the side, or the water can even shoot back up the mountain a little bit before it goes down. But eventually it's going to go down. There's the downhill part of the mountain that gravity pulls the water down the mountain, and there's downhill. Okay, so I understand how something that's fluid like water moves with gravity. It tries to go downhill. Now, you can kind of open up your eyes and stop the visualization part, but with astrology, we live in a universe that's mostly potentials and possibilities. There's potential to do this or potential to do that, and possibilities to do this or possibilities to do that. But it's like being on the side of a mountain. People, companies, clubs, societies, countries, nations, states, corporations, anything that's made up of people, living beings, right? Depending on when they're first created, when they're born, so to speak, and what time of day and what location and where the stars are and everything, they have a certain tendency, and that tendency is their downhill, right? That's where their gravity is. Um, and what astrology does, it doesn't say this is the potential, this is the energy, and things are going to be this way. Not necessarily so, because unlike water, water doesn't think, water doesn't have feelings, water can't make choices. It just does what gravity forces it to do. But people can think and they can choose whether to go uphill, whether they go downhill, whether they go sideways across the hill, backwards or forwards. They have the choice to make, but they're always going to have that downhill, that innate tendency that's a combination of what their downhill was when they were born and what the downhill of the current moment and location that they live in is. What is the overall potential and possibility? And the downhill is the more likely thing. But being thinking, feeling beings, people can choose to go uphill or across the hill, either way, right? So that's why astrology isn't necessarily so hard set. It's going to be this way, and this is the only way it's going to be. No, that's not what astrology is. Astrology is the potential. What's the most likely potential or possibility? What is the energy making become the downhill of the moment based on who the person is and what their downhill is? It's a way for us to see the downhill and know where the downhill is in this world of potentials and possibilities. So that's why astrology is not exact. It gives us a little bit of a kind of a fuzzy vision of what the downhill is for people, for organizations, for anything that's made up of people or a person or groups of persons. And so that's what I see astrology as really being. And I just wanted to leave that message. All right. So much love, peace, long life, and now you know where to find the downhill.